Okay, hi everybody. So I'm going to be showing and explaining the eyeball and showing my model of an eyeball today. So this is my eyeball. Trying my best. But that's what my eyeball is. And so this little black spot, well, dark brown spot, is the pupil. And then the iris is the dark blue part right here. And then the retina is like along this like yellow edge, like it's like along the yellow, like right in here, like right under the red part. And then the cornea is this like front white part, kind of like right in here. And then the lens is like right in here. And then the ciliary muscle is this red line right here. And then the fovea is like this like color stuff back here, like in the back of the eye. And then the sensory receptors is like the lower colorful stuff's like down here. And then like the fovea is like up here. And then the octave nerve is this like back, like white, this like back part right here. And then the blind spot is like right in here. So those are all the parts of the eye. And then some topics that we're talking about is the stimulus. So this is like right in here. This is where this occurs. And the stimulus in the eye is light. So like when we see light, that's like the stimulus. Light enters the eye through the cornea and pupil and hits the retina in the back of the eye. The retina has a special cell called photosensors, or like the rods and the cones, that detect the light. And when the light hits these cells, it stimulates them to change the light energy into electrical signals, which are then sent through the octave nerve to the brain so you can see. And then the electromagnetic spectrum, which is like right by the retina. And the retina is like this yellow edge right here. So this is like where this happens, like right along this part, like right here. That's where this happens. This is when visible light is the part of the electromagnetic spectrum that the human eye can see. The electromagnetic spectrum includes all the types of energy waves, but visible light is a small section of it. It ranges from red, longer wavelengths, to lower energy, to violet, which is shorter wavelengths or higher energy. And when visible light enters the eye, it stimulates the retina, allowing us to see colors, brightness, and shapes. So that's what like the electromagnetic spectrum does. And then the accommodation. Accommodation is a process where the eye changes the shape of the lens. This like happens in the ciliary muscles. And it changes the lens to focus on objects at different distances. So like when you look at something close to the ciliary muscle contract, making the lens thicker so the image focuses on the retina. And then when you look at something far away, the ciliary muscle relaxes and the lens becomes thinner. This is allowing the image to stay clear, like no matter the distance. So the accommodations kind of talks about like looking at things like how far, like distance. And then lens shape and change, which is like in here, is a lens shape change happens to the eye so the eye can focus light clearly on the retina. Looking at close objects, the ciliary muscles contract, the lens becomes thicker and more curved, and the light is bent more. So looking at far objects, the ciliary muscles relax and the lens becomes thinner and flatter, and the light is bent less. And then distribution rods and cones and visible input they detect is rods and cones are photoreceptors in the retina, and they're unevenly distributed, which affects what we can see. So distribution is when cones are connected in the fovea, the center of the retina, and then rods are mostly in the peripheral outer retina and are absent in the fovea. And then visible input they detect is when cones detect color and fine detail and work best in bright light, and rods detect light and darkness, motion and shapes, and work best in low light. And then the last part is the visible pathway. So the visual pathway is the route visible information takes from the eye to the brain so you can see. So light enters the eye and it is detected by rods and cones in the retina, and then the photoreceptors convert light into electrical signals, and then the light signals travel through the optic nerve, and then the optic nerve changes them, and then some nerve fibers cross to opposite side of the brain, and then the signals continue through the optic tract to the thalamus. From the thalamus, signals travel via the optic radiations, and then the information reaches the visible cortex in the optical lobe, where it is interpreted by images. So that's kind of a little explanation of the eye, and then my explanation of my model.